Welcome to the Tuesday, that was previously scheduled, but thanks to a snowstorm, welcome to the Thursday, February 14th, meeting of the Longmeadow School Committee. Happy Valentine's Day to all. Good to see the red, and happy Valentine's Day to all of our spouses, significant others, and family members who probably would wish we were home instead of here tonight, but we'll be there soon enough. This meeting is being recorded and aired live by LCTV, as well as being live streamed on longmeadow.org. It is a legal requirement for anyone else to disclose if they're recording this meeting. Is there anybody recording this meeting? Seeing none, I would invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The following correspondence will be recorded.
An emailed letter from Mr. Joseph Thomas dated February 5, 2019 regarding the superintendent and his contract. An emailed letter dated February 1, 2019 from Mr. Donald Jarvis of Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative regarding the Student of the Month for January 2019. Longmeadow students honored are Olivia Charpino, Health Assisting 2, and Mohammed Ali Shah, Integrated Occupational Prep.
Great, thank you. We don't have any approval of minutes. At this time, I will open up the floor to any visitor comments. Seeing there's no visitor comments, we'll move on to school committee announcements and recognitions. Bronwyn.
I just wanted to let everyone know that some students from Glenbrook Middle School attended the Science Olympiad at Harvard University on Sunday, and they all did a phenomenal job preparing, and a couple of them even placed. And there was teams from all over New England. This was the first time that Glenbrook went, so it was a very exciting day. So congratulations to those students who participated. Thanks.
Great. Any further comments?
I just have
Susie?
a couple of quick things. I was able to walk through Williams Middle School last week with the building committee, and I thank Dr. Guile and Dr. O'Shea for the tour of just understanding a little bit more about the statement of interest and why, and that's understandable. I didn't get to go to Glenbrook, but thank you for inviting us to attend that. And I did have a chance to go to the high school NEASC presentation, the presentation of the vision of the graduate, and give some feedback. And was there were committed parents there, a few, but it was nice to have a little opportunity to see where the kids are headed. So thanks Tom Landers for that.
I just have a few. First off, Bronwyn, just being a little bit modest, helped out with that Science Olympiad, so thank you very much for stepping up and volunteering. I'd also like to point out that last week was an awesome Pops concert at the LHS, as well as the first poetry contest.
I think they did it once last year.
Once last year, second
Yeah.
Read Aloud Poetry Contest.
Yeah.
And I see some of the parents that and they're in the crowd who have children who participated as well, and it was an awesome event. And I know there's an instrumental coming up as well, or was that last night?
Instrumental is
Last night.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was already booked, so I'm sure that was amazing as well. And the only other thing that I wanted to comment on as a school committee member is the role of the school committee. The role of the school committee is really simple. It's probably the simplest form of board we have. We are responsible for the budget, we're responsible for the policy, and we're responsible for hiring and evaluating the superintendent. And basically, those are the three things we do. I've seen some parents who have emailed the school committee in regards to issues that are outside of our jurisdiction or purview. I'd just like to make it very clear to parents and the community that the proper escalation of any kind of matter should be always with the student's teacher, to the principal, and then eventually with Dr. O'Shea if it has to go through those steps. The school committee does not get involved in personal matters, privacy matters in regards to things like that if it falls outside of policy, budget, and managing the superintendent. And it works better if the school committee is not part of that process. So just want to make sure we outline directly what our responsibility is to the community and what the responsibility is with the escalation process within the school system. So that being said, we'll move on. No business with guests. Dr. O'Shea, Superintendent Report.
Sure. A few items for you. So I included in the report some upcoming events, and it's a busy month of February into March. It was the Special Education Alliance, the Parent Advisory Group, was to meet this past Tuesday. They'll have to reschedule, so we'll get that date out as soon as we know that. The walking school buses are underway. Wolf Swamp had their walking school bus this morning, and if weather permits, we'll be looking at a walking school bus tomorrow morning at Center in Blueberry, although the weather may not cooperate for us there. I want to notify the committee that we have pulled together once again, the K-8 handbook committee. Some of the assistant principals and principals are involved in that, and so we'll be bringing some changes to you at some meeting in the future. We have, I want to notify you, the week of February 25th is a big week in the Pupil Services Department. That's the week that we will experience our tiered focus monitoring review. And the state of Massachusetts, DESE, visits districts and charter schools every 3 years to monitor our compliance with special education practices and law at the federal and state level. And ultimately, from that week of monitoring, the DESE will develop a report that we will publicly share and we'll bring back to the committee. And I suspect we'll have Jean Fontaine, our Director of Pupil Services, will come and explain the findings from DESE. But I appreciate the work of the Pupil Services staff in preparing the piles and piles of documents that are part of that compliance review. So thank you there. We have a few other things. High school start time task force is still underway. Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 27th. Our hope is that we can start to really get into sort of the where the rubber hits the road in terms of the relationship between high school start times and transportation and athletics. So Mr. Mazza, our athletic director, and Mike Capitasto are doing running some models that the task force will review. The Community Conversation Series will continue February 28th. I'd like to highlight two events the first week of March. One is Devorah Heitner is author of Screenwise, Raising Digital Natives. She'll join us through the Special Programs Committee at 7 o'clock at Long Meadow High School. So it's Devorah Heitner. And I know that Sandy Boudreau, our Technology Integration Coordinator, would not be happy with me if I didn't mention the TIES event. This is the Technology and Education Showcase. Very, very ambitious event. This is our fourth TIES event, and there are dozens and dozens of student and teacher presentations. And this year, we've kind of always looking to tweak and improve. We have invited many of outside vendors, some of the partners that we work with to showcase their work as well. So Apple Computer, Wally Computer, Bay Path University, a number of different organizations will be with us for TIES as well. So that's Thursday, March 7th at 6 o'clock at Long Meadow High with a snow date of the 4th. Professional Development Day coming up for the staff, and second meeting of the Parent Curriculum Advisory Council is Thursday, March 19th. Definitely should highlight, though, that we recently identified recipients of the Pioneer Valley Excellence in Teaching Award. So as a district, given our size, we were able to identify 3 veteran teachers and 1 new teacher. So representing Long Meadow High, and that will be James DeBurn, science teacher at Long Meadow High, Kathleen Rosato, health teacher at Williams, Jennifer Serafino, grade 2 teacher at Center School, and Colleen Grady in the new teacher category. So congratulations to all those great educators, and they, as I always say, they really represent the excellence that we see on an everyday basis here in Long Meadow. And then, finally, the class of 2032 is on its way. Mrs. Gigantis has been busy receiving registration packets from some eager, some not so eager parents of members of the class of 2032. So It's been fun to see the little ones come in the door. It's a busy time, but I thank Diane for coordinating that and communicating it so clearly to our future parents. So that's it. And if you have any questions, I'm open.
Any questions for Marty? Seeing none, do we have a report from Sue?
Me? Yeah. Okay, great. It's been a while, so it's long. I know you have it. I won't go through everything, but I've been trying to report out based on our school improvement plan goals, so I'll continue that for a while until you guys say that's ridiculous, do it a different way. But social emotional learning, we had Jetta Bernier come last week before last, on our half day, and she presented to all staff, every one of us, on preventing child sexual abuse. That's one step in quite a few steps that we've had in this area put together. We've had some online training for folks, and so we're well on our way to having that covered. We had a medical parent night that was awesome. All of our local districts got together and worked on some motivational interviewing techniques. It was pretty funny. I thought we did a nice job. We have culturally responsive classroom training on the 15th. Well, actually, I think all staff will be at that as well, coming up on our PD day. Goal 2, differentiation of curriculum. We have a lot of high-quality teacher shares going on. And this is a process where somebody makes a proposal to dive into a topic of interest and related to our improvement goals. And we have several running right now, and they've been really awesome. Number Talks is something that we're really taking on in math. And if you want to see a number talk, we can probably find a teacher to show you a number talk, but it's really getting kids to dive into the language of numbers and get a real good number sense. They're pretty cool. You can read the rest, Readers and Writers Workshop Toolkit, lots structured word inquiry. We have several folks who have been going to Inclusive Practices Network. That's a DESI-run network. We made a commitment to more inclusive work here. We've got middle school math PD going on. We've been looking at MCAS subgroup data to see how our subgroups are faring. I have bought hook, line, and sinker into robotics. It's really cool. We were up the other night. It's picture's really small on that, but that's actually like a project plan. And there's a project manager, and he's a senior in high school. And he went through this project. Was anybody else there that night? That project timeline, like he had been in business for years. And so it's incredible. They're building 2 robots, one to compete and one prototype, so that they can kind of make mistakes on the prototype and fix them on the robot. So I believe their first competition is at Winnick the 3rd weekend in March. So the second day is supposed to be the best one if anybody wants to go. We have tons of curriculum alignment work going on. Our K-12 curriculum council met, our core subject, and we worked a little more on our draft of our planning guide. And K-3 teachers met on math to refine some things in math. We met again today. We'll meet again tomorrow with math. We have like civics, high-quality teacher share going on, history. I won't read everyone. Additionally, we are working hard at building community partnerships with Bay Path and Westfield State and UMass. We're looking to do like a critical friends share with our high school teachers and some college professors to talk about what kids need when they get to college, what they might be lacking, and what we should be preparing them for. So we thought we did that a lot with elementary, middle, or middle high, but not high school into the college, so that'll be great. We have a desktop review of our Title I, 2A, and 4 grants. It happens every 6 years. It's not nearly as intensive as the audit you were talking about for special education, Marty, but that is, all of our data has been submitted, so we'll let you know how we fare with that. That's a pretty long process, I think. We are in the midst of planning for our March PD, our last full day of the year, and also for the start of next school year. And we are gearing up for MCAS because that's coming right around the corner. We're doing infrastructure trials. This is the first year everybody will take MCAS online. So that's kind of exciting. We have 20 PGC courses running between now and the end of May. They're in-class courses, online courses, blended learning classes. They're all aligned with our district improvement plan. All have at least 10 to 15 students or who are teachers in them. And we had a little bit of a heartbreak. Our social studies grant did not get awarded. It was a really small grant, but we were looking forward to helping that with our civics planning. Not to stop it, but we didn't get that, sorry. But we are going to apply for a STOP ACTS grant, which is It's called Sober Truth on Preventing Underage Drinking. It's similar to the opioid grant that we have now that Paul runs. So I think over February vacation, we have some time set aside to look at all of that. And I think that's $50,000 a year
$50,000,
for 5 years. So we are going to focus on binge drinking in Longmeadow, since that was something that was kind of a heightened concern on our last survey. Oh, and one more thing, since I wrote this, our accountability report cards have come in. They're on the DESI website. They are brand new this year, brand new style. They give you a lot of information. If you go to DESI, go to accountability, and then school and district profiles, you can find them. And we'll send them home to all parents before the end of the month. But they have some good data, definitely worth digging into.
Yeah. Desi's done a nice job of kind of taking a lot of dense data
Yeah.
and making it accessible to
Yeah.
parents and community members. So
Yeah.
we'll push that information out.
Are there any questions for Sue? Sue, the only question I had on the STOP grant, would Paul be running that as well, or?
He's going to be a major player in it for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, yep, yep. Shelley would be involved in helping to write it. I think we can use a lot of the same information that we have already gathered, but I think it's going to be a lot of work to submit the grant. And I think it's one of the ones that they might give you some feedback if you don't get it the first year. Marty, I think
Yeah.
you know more about that than I do, but
Yeah.
try for it again after that. But I think it'd be great if we could secure that as well.
Great.
Yep.
Any other questions, discussion? Moving on, Tom?
So I will be the school department's representative at the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program workshops coming up at the end of February. It's a
He
state-
wants you to say he's our MVP.
Yes, I am.
Sounds like fun.
This is a state program that the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission will be conducting with representatives from various boards and departments throughout the town, working on, I would say, various objectives, but, you know, the connections between natural hazards and town preparedness, and working with different entities throughout town in those type of instances. A quick update on the LED proposals that were approved earlier this fall. The 2 middle schools have been completed. I believe work has started at both Blueberry and Center, with the hopes of completing those next week, and then starting Wolf Swamp soon after that. We are looking at the high school. When we brought forward the proposals, we did not include the high school. We didn't think that they'd be able to get that done in time for the completion that was stipulated, but they have, I guess, approval from Eversource to consider this building. So they're working, they did a site visit a couple weeks ago, and they're working on proposals. Most of the lights in here are not LED. I believe the only lights we have are on the exterior of the building. So they're looking at opportunities to convert over the light in the high school to see what kind of savings that can provide. The district safety team met with representatives from police, fire, and DPW last Friday. During the meeting, we discussed the Say Something app that was rolled out earlier this year. I believe to date we've had approximately 43 tips that have been received. I would say majority of them were received in the first week or two, and most slowed down over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We also discussed the family reunification plan, school safety procedures, and we had a debriefing on the parking lot flood that occurred over at Blueberry earlier this month. We also, district administrators and school principals all participated in a family reunification exercise on yesterday, as a matter of fact, with representatives from police and fire. It was a interesting dialogue and experience for us to sit down and go through a tabletop where there was a scenario that was brought forward by the police department, the fire department, and we kind of had to go through how would we react, who would be in what roles. So this is the second scenario that we've done an exercise with them, and I think it was pretty valuable to have to just talk out, never mind have to live through it. So I think we'll continue planning more exercises with them on various topics. And I will be met with a representative from our insurance agent, our insurance provider, doing a self-audit safety walkthrough later in March. kind of just making sure that we're in compliance with the new safety standards. The state adopted OSHA standards earlier this year, and we had the custodians do walkthroughs, kind of just doing an assessment, and I will do a site visit and walk through with them and just see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. And finally, the Food Service Advisory Committee met back on February 4th. We met over at Glenbrook. We observed lunch service and then participated in lunch. We went through the lunch line and were able to choose something that the students were provided just to kind of get the experience and see and eat what they do every day. So to get a feel for it, the superintendent joined us during
Good
our
lunch.
meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that. Yeah.
We also discussed program participation, financial performance, and just feedback and suggestions to help improve program. And we'll be meeting again in April.
Any questions for Tom? Tom, just a couple from me. The LED lighting, I guess I've been in the middle schools and in the elementary school, and I haven't noticed a difference. Has anybody else?
Not that I heard, no.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
There's lots of people in the room here. Okay. Good.
It's a good improvement.
Yeah. Oh, good to hear. And then on the food service, I know Susie's new. If she wanted to go observe, you would welcome it, I'm guessing.
Would welcome her to come and have lunch with us.
Great.
Happy to
Thank
meet her.
you. All right. It's good to hear.
Very much.
I do not have a report tonight. There is no student present, so we do not have a student present report. Finance sub, no report. Policy sub, no report. We have a motion on the table in regards to the FY20 school department budget.
I move that the school committee approve the FY 2020 proposed school department budget in the amount of $37,445,877.15, with a general fund allocation of $35,153,128.62, and submit this amount to the town manager for inclusion at the annual town meeting on Tuesday, May 14, 2019.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion?
Can I mention just a couple things? So I just want to mention that the information on the proposed recommended budget is available on our website, and I think we also made it available in the town libraries as a copy of the presentation in our lobby as well. But I also want to note the assistance that we received from town officials, Stephen Crane, Paul Pasterzik, have been great over the last several months, kind of helping us understand what the town's challenges are. We've had an opportunity to talk to them about what our goals were, and I think also the time that we've spent with the tax ceiling task force has been valuable in terms of understanding what challenges exist, maybe in the years ahead. So it's I think everyone's trying to take the long view, and we hope that this is a budget that helps us hit a few key goals, as we talked about last week, but we see it as one that is responsible and sustainable for the district and hopefully the town as well. So,
Great.
I had just one item,
Yes, Susie.
and it's just related to the Chapter 70 funding, because we saw something come through that the governor's budget is looking to, obviously increase that. And
Right.
so what happens when and if an increase in that funding comes through, you adjust the budget? Like, when does that all
so
happen?
not necessarily. I think the Chapter 70 aid flows through
Through
the
the town.
town.
Okay.
And so, given that the town funds us so far beyond what is minimally required, any increase in Chapter 70 would be welcome relief.
Right.
But it would be welcome relief to us as a community as a whole, to
Sure.
the town of Long Meadow.
Yeah.
And right, and as we talked about last week, the governor's budget at least had proposed for Long Meadow over a 6% increase in Chapter 70 aid, which is optimistic,
Yeah.
good news for us.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
But we hope that holds at least.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to, wait, we have to vote.
Vote,
Sorry.
yeah.
Got ahead of myself. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Unanimous. Now, moving on to new business, Dr. O'Shea will update us on his progress on his annual plan.
So in your meeting packet, I had supplied you with a written report and also a copy of my 2018-2019 annual plan. This slide deck sort of captures a lot of what was in the written report. And as I get into it, I think it's, I joke with the administrators that the goals that I have, to the extent that I make progress on those goals, it's a team effort, and it's a reflection of the combined work of us as an administrative team, along with the involvement of the teachers and the staff as well. So it's nice to have this opportunity to sort of pause mid-year and sort of think about, take inventory of what I've accomplished relative to that plan and what work still lies in front of us. And so the cycle should be a familiar one. This is the cycle that all educators experience in the state of Massachusetts, whether you are a superintendent, a principal, a classroom educator. The process is ongoing and cyclical. It involves self-assessment, goal setting, implementation, and then where we are at about 7 o'clock on this cycle, the mid-cycle goals review. So that's where we are tonight, and I'm happy to have an opportunity to talk to the committee about some of the steps that I've taken relative to that plan. As you're aware, a superintendent's annual plan by DESE regulations consists of 3 components: a professional practice goal, a student learning goal, and the district improvement plan. I will spare you reading this, but this is just to capture the verbiage of that professional practice goal. So the first one related to strengthening community relations, improving district governance, and enhancing the engagement of all stakeholders. So that was my professional practice goal. The second component, again, related to student learning and safety. And no surprise, this we're heavily focused on social emotional learning and creating cultures that are inclusive of all learners, and a strong focus on school safety as well. So just to highlight some of the steps that I've taken relative to that professional practice goal, and with regard to community engagement, I want to highlight that what I'm focusing on here tonight and what was focused in the plan was sort of new approaches to community engagement. There's certainly a lot of existing practices in place at the school and district level, but I want to apologize and thank community members who so frequently participate in our surveys. We hope that we're not over-surveying the community, but our schools have really stepped up their efforts in terms of trying to understand the experience of our parents, the experience of our students, and those surveys have been an important part of that. And so we're going to try to work on sort of coordinating those surveys and streamlining them to make it more manageable and more meaningful. I'm really excited about the introduction of the Parent Curriculum Advisory Council. We had our first meeting a while back, and it was lively, it was engaging, it was an opportunity for us to get some feedback from parents. You know, some of the feedback we got most recently related to writing and kind of need to do a better job of articulating our writing expectations so parents know what's happening at the classroom level. So that was interesting. Superintendent Community Conversation Series, the next one is at the end of February. We've had a number of activities that have attempted to ensure school committee administrative collaboration. The list is there for you, including walkthroughs and the roles and responsibilities workshop. And then I hope that it's been your experience as school committee members that the communication has been regular and it has kept you up to date on important events. I have made a commitment to doing sort of a weekly informal check-in along with the more formal reports that wind up in your packet. A couple of forms we introduced. for the evaluation subcommittee. One was a progress monitoring forum, and then a two-way communication forum. And that was just to ensure that there was regular exchange of information to that evaluation subcommittee. Certainly some work ahead of us. I'll be interested in some additional school committee admin team building. I think that's on your agenda later on tonight. School committee visits, as we onboard additional committee members. Be interested in giving committee members an opportunity to visit our schools and see firsthand for themselves the great work that's happening. The LCTV Superintendent's Roundtable, thank you, Mr. Gandis, for scheduling one. I have one coming up on, I know everybody waits with such anticipation for the Superintendent's Roundtables. The next one, mark your calendars, relates to social studies, and I want to highlight some of the changes that are happening in social studies, but also show the work of the civic engagement of so many of our students. Most recently, we had a group go down to Washington, D.C. To attend a national meeting of drug-free community coalitions, and they had an amazing experience walking the halls of Congress, hearing from experts in the field, and meeting some of our legislative aides, and so we'll highlight that. And then the last bullet on there is something that is personally important to me, and that is, developing community partnerships that support student learning. And I think this will be a multi-year effort, and maybe a never-ending effort, but we have so many resources in this community that we would love to see our students take advantage of, and we'd love for students to have the opportunity to be in the community learning in real-life settings. The high school, you learned last week or 2 weeks ago that as part of their program next year that they'll be expanding internships, and so we want to continue in that direction. And Sue has been really involved in that. I appreciate her efforts in pushing us in that direction as well. The second component relates to student learning and safety. Some of this we've already just talked about tonight through the reports that you heard, but the sexual abuse awareness training. Again, this is sort of a part of a multi-step process for us in terms of making sure that we are putting protective factors in place for our students and staff. So we had Jetta Bernier spoke to all staff in January. No, actually February. And
I think it was January.
talk to us about what steps we can take to ensure that we are aware of the pitfalls that come with sexual abuse and the vulnerability of children in this area. Verbal drug screening. This is the ESPERT tool that has been put in place, and I'm really pleased with the way we rolled it out. It's a sort of a sensitive policy initiative that is required by state law. But I think we handled it very delicately and tried to keep parents informed, and our nurses had some really meaningful conversations with kids around substance use, and it's an important preventative measure for us. Say Something Anonymous reporting system, Tom mentioned that earlier. Athletic department surveys. So this was something, again, part of a wider effort to ensure that we understand the student athletic experience. And so a credit to Tom Landers, to Athletic Director Mike Capitasto for putting some surveys in place. We had over 200 parents responded to a survey that was done after the fall season. And we got some great feedback, some anecdotal feedback, but we also heard that I saw, just checked it before I came in, over 88% of our kids reported to their parents that they had an athletic experience that was enjoyable, and so that was a great thing to see. But again, some important information came back anecdotally to us through that survey. Hostile intruder response, working closely with the PD to introduce a new approach to responding to hostile situations. You prepare for the worst and hope it never happens. But introducing that approach where no longer is it simply lock down, and sit vulnerably, but encouraging staff to understand that all of us can make decisions in the moment if we were faced with a hostile intruder, and have the option to try to avoid, try to deny, try to defend. Tom mentioned reunification drills. It was really a powerful experience to sit with the PD and the entire admin team to kind of mentally rehearse what we would do in the event that we were faced with a hostile intruder, and what would happen if we were to evacuate a school, and how would we reunify students with their parents. And we've developed some very strict protocols, and so much credit to the fire department for assisting us with this. Some strict protocols on what we would do and what we would have to set up in the event of an evacuation situation. So a lot of work still to be done in this area, though. I want to highlight the first bullet there, the identification of critical indicators or assessment practices relating to SEL. This is something that is sort of a work in progress locally here, but across the state, probably across the nation, trying to understand what are some bottom line indicators we can look at to understand if students have the social, emotional competencies that they need to thrive and grow and learn. And so there's a lot happening there. We're approaching it by looking at survey data. We're approaching it by looking at discipline data. The CASEL organization has a network that is in the middle of a 3-year study to take a look at some assessments that could be used in schools to measure student competency in this area. So Beth Nelson, Wolf Swamp Principal, is part of that network. Ms. Hutton is part of a state network that's looking at the same thing, trying to identify some critical indicators for us. So a lot of work to be done in that area. We are sort of at the early stages of trying to we have lots of supports in place, but measuring that, understanding the student experience is something that we're committed to. So the other bullets you can see, I'm proud that we have lined up a culturally responsive education training for all staff on March 15th. Trying to make sure that our practices in the classrooms, even in offices, and the way we register families, that we are being responsive to, that we understand how to support students from a variety of backgrounds. So I'm pleased that we have that lined up. The trainer is a woman that actually met with us as an admin team last summer. So we experienced the training in the summer, and we're introducing it to the staff in March. And then the other items there, co-teaching, again, we are trying to understand how we can be very inclusive in our practices by having a special educator work with an educator licensed in a particular content area to support kids. The notification system for hostile intruders, you recall maybe that we had introduced CopSync. We've had some technical challenges with CopSync in terms of its compatibility with Mac computers. So we're really interested in identifying another tool that could be used as a notification system if we were faced with a safety challenge like that. A safety forum, camera surveillance. Tom has been back and forth with the town officials on this and trying to expand surveillance in our schools. We have wonderful surveillance here at the high school. We have surveillance of front entrances at the other schools, but we think that we would benefit from kind of deploying more cameras at all of our schools. So that could become, that's something that we could certainly work more closely with the school committee on, and capital planning and town officials as well. So the third component, the district improvement plan. Some of this, again, is things that we've talked about already tonight, so I'll try not to be redundant. We're really proud that we have introduced the Botvin Life Skills curriculum at the middle school. So it builds on the Botvin training that happens at the elementary school. And then next year, we're hoping to expand health instruction at our elementary schools further based on the budget that the school committee supported and voted tonight. So we're really excited about that. The DESE Inclusion Network differentiation, this is probably remains a sort of a growth area for us, I'd say. We have put some things in place. There's some forward progress. There's some good momentum. We had Rick Romelli, national consultant, in earlier, generated a ton of conversation across the district about how we can differentiate to support all learners. The co-teaching model again, and I think that the vision of the graduate that Susie mentioned earlier is something that could be a powerful framework for us in terms of meeting learners where they are, working with their interests, putting them in charge of their own learning, et cetera, et cetera. And curriculum alignment, a lot of work. You saw Sue's report earlier. All the balls that she's juggling in this area is really impressive, and it's a reflection of a lot of teachers working collaboratively in this area to make sure that kids have a sort of a common experience across grade levels, hopefully a seamless experience as they make their way through the district. I'm excited by so much of this. I'm excited that we have sort of the early draft of a curriculum planning guide that we hope to put in front of the committee when it's ready for prime time. It's a document that we can use for budgeting purposes, for professional development planning purposes, for curriculum development purposes. So we're excited about that. And really energetic group of middle school educators working on literacy practices, trying to ensure that we are literacy-rich schools at the middle level. What's in front of us? You see the list. Social studies, high school start time task force, the SEL indicators. We're committed to that CASEL framework, and we want to make that a powerful way to organize our work. The vision of the graduate, what does that look like K-8? You know, if we are expecting our 12th graders to walk across Symphony Hall stage in June with a certain set of competencies, how do we work towards those competencies K-8? So we've started to talk about that. So proud of the standards-based assessment practices that we've introduced and that our teachers have embraced. And interesting to see that so many of our middle-level educators now are interested in how does that work that has happened at the elementary level, how does it scaffold up, and how can we build on it at the middle school level. And that applies to homework as well. Middle school recess, I moved it to this slide as a work in progress. We are, again, with the budget the committee voted, we will be in a better position to have adequate staffing at the middle level to ensure our kids get outside each day next year. So this is, I said I'm excited about a lot. This is the slide I'm sort of most excited about. In October of 2016, we had sent out a staff and community survey, and we asked the community, we asked the staff how effective we are in those categories that you see. And what I provided for you is a report on the percentage of respondents that rated us as a 5, as very effective. And so it's so pleasing to see that the needle has moved, that at least in the experience of the staff and the community, the perspective of the staff and the community, that we are more effective in every category. And I sent the survey out about a week or two ago and sort of held my breath and said, okay, we're kind of lay it on the line and see what kind of progress, what kind of growth there's been since October 16. And it's great to see, and again, it's such a reflection of the combined work of all educators in this district, and to see that parent experience at least, views us as far more effective. And in this case, I think about just under 75% of the respondents were parents. So it was, and we can separate that out and identify, the parent experience versus the staff experience. So this is just sort of a snapshot of that staff and community survey. So that's it. I appreciate the chance to reflect on some of the work we've been involved with and some of the efforts I've made to address the goals of the plan, and would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Open it up for any questions.
I won't.
Ryan?
So about all the surveys,
Yeah.
speaking of the survey we were just talking about, so looking back on goal 1 on the first page, there's a bunch of surveys noted, and then you also have the athletics in another section. So how is the data that you're getting being used to inform decision-making, particularly at the schools?
So I'll use this last slide maybe as an example. You'll see that there are still some areas where, that present themselves as opportunities for improvement. So in this particular slide, for example, how effective is the district at using student assessments to inform decision-making? So either it's a matter of communicating more clearly to parents our work in this area, or it's perhaps that we need to be more effective in this area. And that's something that we will address through some of the action steps in our district improvement plan. The other one that shows itself as a target here for us is the community partnerships. And I think it's, when I look at this survey, I think it's loud and clear that the community, parents, staff believe that we can leverage community partnerships for students more effectively. So what we try to do is take the surveys and use it to inform the development of school improvement plans. So I think every school has issued a school climate survey. And so that will shape the development of school improvement plans next year. The athletic survey that was done, I know that Athletic Director Capitasto met with the coaches to go over the results and to sort of feed back to them the feedback that we received. So I think that there's definitely an expectation that these surveys don't just sit in a drawer. The school councils especially have been really active at putting together surveys and reviewing the results of that. So it's part of that feedback loop that and to the extent that it can inform our work here, working with you as a school committee, we'll definitely bring that data forward. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bronwyn?
I just had a quick question. I think the vision of the graduate is a great way of measuring how the students are coming out of the high school, but I really like the fact that you're going to kind of assess how it can be applicable to K-8. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, how you see that going, in what direction.
I think the thing that jumps out at me is sort of student agency and students being in charge of their own learning. So when I look at the results of the vision of the graduate project that the high school did, a lot of it was around student independence, students being in charge of their own learning, students being in charge of their own meaningful learning. And so, what does that, how can we scaffold up towards that? How can we build up towards that, K-8? And I think there's so many examples of that are already in place at the elementary and middle level. So again, I think of that standards-based report card where students are focusing on their own proficiency and working towards a standard as opposed to working towards a grade. And so there, at the elementary level, I think that the kids are more in charge of their own learning. And so I think that will feed really nicely into what Tom Landers has put together as part of that vision of the graduate. So you hope that, again, all those arrows are sort of pointing towards the same target. I'd hate to see the vision pointing us this way and other initiatives pointing us the other way. So, but I think that there is some consistency in some of the improvement plans that we have and what we got from that vision project. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
I do have one. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Unless you want to go first.
No, you go first.
Okay. So about the SEL on goal 2 and under next steps.
Yeah.
So basically, you did talk about how you're looking at survey data and discipline data. So really, my question is, who's doing the work of reviewing the effectiveness of what we're doing as far as SEL is concerned?
Right now, we're working on it as an administrative team, and so that very question is one that we have kicked around as recently as today. And so it's really up to the grade span principals to identify some key indicators. So what I've asked is at the elementary level for the principals to sort of collaborate and say, what are the leading indicators, what are the key assessments that we want to track year after year after year, and have a consistent approach across all 3 of our elementary schools, and then same thing at the middle level and the high school level. Now, how we measure it at each level, it could turn out differently. But I would say even the staff has been involved. So at the elementary level, we have on the report card the learner behaviors, and those learner behaviors would potentially lend themselves towards helping us measure SEL competency. At the middle level, they've been really involved. Neil Guile, Nicole Allen have been really involved with the CASEL framework. And so they're really dialed into that measuring SEL project that CASEL is involved with. And then at the high school, I think a lot of it has been, they've had some established practices around the youth risk behavior survey, so that's being managed by the principal. But the staff and Shelley Warren, Paul McNeil, and the counselors across the board, they're looking closely at that data to kind of understand how they can meet student needs better. So it might look, the measuring sticks that we ultimately pin down might look a little different at every grade level, but there should be an expectation that it's consistent across grade levels, I'd say.
Thank you.
I just have a comment. I mean, just based on, what's been shared here, I mean, these are all of the things, given my experience in schools and working with other schools around the country, that everything that you're focused on is what's going on around the country. Longmeadow isn't unique in the needs of attending to SEL. It's not unique in attending to how do we develop students who have more power and decision-making in their learning, right? So all of this is very much in line with where we want to go as a nation, as a society. And I think it's, all moving in the right direction. I'm, in particular, very, as a parent of young children, the class of 2032 that's coming, very happy about the attention to the safety and security, obviously, given my experience, but also all of us being parents and caring about our kids and making sure they're safe in school. So all of it, I have to say, thank you for the efforts that you're making to move the district forward.
Thanks, and it's, again, a reflection of the combined efforts of so many people. I don't obviously do the work on my own. And it's interesting, I often say that I could be a superintendent for 100 years, and some of the goals that are here might be our goals in 100 years. I mean, you just never get there, right? You're always kind of looking for continuous improvement, continuous growth, and sometimes the expectations change, or the goal line shifts a little bit, and so you're always chasing something else. But they're ambitious goals, they're worthwhile goals, and I think of momentum a lot as a phrase I use, and I think there's a lot of forward momentum, and I'm really proud of the work that I hope this reflects for you. So.
Any other comments, questions? Bronwyn.
I just have one comment. I also feel the most exciting part of it is the survey that Dr. O'Shea shared. Some of those increases are very impressive. So that is a testament to Dr. O'Shea and central office admin and all the school admin and faculty and staff. So we appreciate that, and obviously everyone else is feeling much better than they did in October 2016 about a lot of things. And Dr. O'Shea keeps saying, we have to keep improving on things, and it's good to know that as high as some of those jumps are, that he's still looking forward and seeing how we can improve as a district every day.
Any other questions?
I guess so I'll close out with my comment more than a question. When I first came back in August, I was a huge skeptic of this goal and the plan. And basically, I had said at the time, in my long tenure of managing staff, for a 6-page document here, I thought it was overly ambitious and unachievable. You've proved me wrong, and happily so. Either stuff is completed and/or it is underway, or there are plans, distinct plans in place to get it done. So I would like to say I was wrong, just in this one instance. And I totally appreciate everything you've done, Dr. O'Shea, and since I've been back, and just if you listen to my colleagues who have been here a little bit longer than I, it seems like everybody shares the same sentiments. So well done, and we look forward to as you said, forward momentum.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So moving on with more new business in the same vein of the improvement plan, what's been done, I would open it up to discussion of Dr. O'Shea's contract extension. I would entertain any motion or discussion at this time. Yes, Bronwyn.
I just want to say, based on, as you said, all the things that Dr. O'Shea has been able to successfully implement, and keeping the district moving forward and always looking with that forward momentum, and those, the data's there to show that things are getting better. The mid-cycle report clearly demonstrates to me that Dr. O'Shea is working diligently and collaboratively with everyone, including the fire chief, police chief, and everyone within the schools, and all the stakeholders, which is extremely important. And I think his communication is excellent. That's definitely one of his strong points. And I appreciate that as a school committee member, and I know that all the parents appreciate all the communication that they receive, as well as the administrators and the teachers. I think the communication is key, and I think Dr. O'Shea does a great job with that.
Further discussion, any motions?
Yeah, I'd like to, I guess I'm just going to echo Bronwyn's comments. Obviously, the data we receive as we go along through the year has been impressive. Been very happy about the progress we've made in a lot of these areas. And, as a principal, I know I'm always asking, what are you doing with the data? Because that's what I do for a living. It's like, oh, great, you're giving me a report. Now what can I do with it? So I appreciate that answer more than anything, is that the principals are actually getting the information so that they can have these meetings with their teachers and they can actually do something about it. So I'm just echoing Bronwyn. I've been happy with everything as well.
And I see the same thing as being on the school council at Blueberry. That was our first task this year, was looking at data, looking at school climate data, and making decisions about how that informed maybe a revision to the school improvement plan, and being a part of that dialogue and that review. Clearly, you're that's something that doesn't happen by accident. You know, Amy's wonderful, but you know, it happens because it's a standard that you've set that to really review data, make decisions based on it. You know, we all have areas for improvement, right? Like you said, you know, we're never going to be finished with this work, but no, I'm pleased with the direction.
Any further discussion? Any motions? Yes, Bronwyn.
Can I make a motion?
That is in order.
I move that the school committee extend the superintendent's current contract for an additional term of 2 years through and until June 30th, 2021.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would just say that I echo the comments of both, or with everybody. I've had nothing but a great experience communicating with you before I became chair and as chair, and you know, you don't mind me popping in and saying hello. So when you get sick of me, tell me you're sick of me popping in and saying hello. But the communication's been great. I mean, it is regular. It is informative, and the boundaries are set that are appropriate between school committee and administration, and understanding those boundaries and everybody playing their role within the system is very good for norms of a school committee, and I think, as you said, for momentum. So, if any more further discussion, seeing none, I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Bronwyn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Susie.
Yes.
Armin, yes. Passes unanimously 4-0. We will now move on to further new business, legal update. I had a chance to discuss with VDH, who are our attorneys, the matters before the school committee, the matters that they are working on, along with Tom Mazza. I have shared 100% of what, in full transparency, what they have shared with me, with all the members of the school committee in regards to any open litigation or any other things going on. And so we will be working on a future update on our legal matters, but I just wanted to give you guys, you have everything that I have as of this point. I just wanted to make sure we were getting up to speed on what was outstanding. And another thing just for the future is that there was some correspondence that went back and forth between members of the school committee and our attorneys on personal emails. I think that we should take it up at a future meeting to come up with a policy where we require it to go through school committee emails. So that's the legal update. Next thing is the discussion to plan a school committee administrative team retreat. So we have a new committee that will be in place around the first week of March. Again, building trust with the administration and staff is very important to me, and I know to everybody here going forward, and to get it going so that we start that right away. So in March, we need to come up with some dates, I guess, to do it. Diane, do you mind coordinating dates that might work for everybody? And if any of the staff or administration have any suggestions, Marty, I know we've talked a little bit, but we haven't come out with anything definitively. We're all ears for suggestion if it's off-site, if it's on-site. But I want it to be, collegial, team building, get to know each other, and in a non-business-like setting.
Axe throwing?
Axe throwing has been recommended. We are taking that under advisement with the attorneys. So, anybody have any discussion on that, or concerns, thoughts?
Bronwyn does.
Bronwyn?
I don't have any ideas yet for something that we could do. I will try to think of some, but I think it's a great idea that you came up with. I'm super excited for that. I think that it will be beneficial for all, and can't wait for it.
Yeah. Great. So as soon as we'll have Diane reach out to everybody for get dates.
Do you want to wait until you have a full committee, so we get everybody's input? Or do you
Then-
want me to set a date now?
Set a date, because then we'd be adjusting it again, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't work, we can rearrange that at that time. Okay, moving on. We have 3 overnight field trip requests. I'll take the motions, or do you want to talk about them first?
If you want, I can just, I don't know if you want to do one at a time. We have these are all preliminary approvals for overnight trips. First one is to Long Meadow High trip to Spain under the leadership of Pat McGowan. This is for February of 2020. Madrid and other cities to be determined, but the departure dates and the other critical information is there for your preliminary approval. And again, what happens is, this really just gives us the green light to go out and secure prices and work with vendors and et cetera, et cetera. So, and then it would come back to you for final approval next year. So that's a Long Meadow High trip to Spain.
Do I
We're
have a
going to go
motion?
one at a time.
Yeah, we'll have the motion.
I move that the school committee approve the preliminary request to secure prices and make arrangements for students from Long Meadow High School to travel to Spain in February 2020.
It's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor? Passes.
Next one is a humanitarian trip to Puerto Rico in February 2020. This is under the leadership of Mr. Dunkerley, Mr. DeBurn, and Ms. Susan Baker, and opportunity for kids to participate in a relief trip, still responding to the damage caused by Hurricane Maria. So this is the February 15th, 2020 to February 21st, 2020.
Yes. Do a motion?
I move that the school committee approve the preliminary request to secure prices and make arrangements for students from Long Meadow High School to travel to Puerto Rico in February 2020.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote on vote. All in favor? Unanimous.
Next is a overnight field trip to France. This is in April of 2020, April 16th to April 24th, led by Catherine Paul, and traveling to France, city of Paris, Normandy region, and the, boy, my French is going to be challenged, the Loire Valley. Loire?
Loire.
Loire. I took Spanish. So, for your consideration.
Great. Is there a motion?
I move that the school committee approve the preliminary request to secure prices and make arrangements for students from Long Meadow High School to travel to France in April 2020.
Second?
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor?
And finally, look for your preliminary approval to secure prices for a trip to Italy and Greece, organized by Bethany Sar. This one, again, is also for April of 2020, and this is tie-in to our Latin classes, and students would have a chance to travel to Rome, Pompeii, and other sites in Italy and Greece.
Is there a motion?
I move that the school committee approve the preliminary request to secure prices and make arrangements for students from Long Meadow High School to travel to Italy and Greece in April 2020.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? The only discussion I would have is if your child goes on this trip, make sure that they have the correct credit card or ATM card to take with them, or else you'll be having them find the local American Express office to get cash from home.
I can make a comment, too. My oldest went on the trip to France, and just, it was one of the best experiences of her life. So the more of these we do, the better, I think.
Yeah, my child had a great experience with this trip. Motion and second. All in favor? Unanimous. There is an executive session planned for this evening. Is there a motion?
I move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation with collective bargaining with Unit E, not to reconvene in open session.
This motion requires a roll call vote. Bronwyn?
Yes.
We have to
Brian.
second that first, or we just move?
Oh, there's a motion. Is there a second? Sorry.
Second.
Second. Bronwyn?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Yeah.
Susie?
Yes.
Armin, yes. We are now in executive session.